In the eyes of others, it was just a ping pong ball. But for Mike, it was the key to his escape. He first threw the ball near the wire fence and then boldly crossed the guard line. After repeated observations, Mike confirmed that this spot was right in the blind spot of the watchtower. Just then, a patrolling prison guard suddenly noticed him. Mike quickly raised his hand, signaling that he was just there to pick up the ball. The guard didn't suspect much and let him leave. However, at night, Mike returned to the same spot, this time pulling out a pair of scissors to begin his escape plan. By the time the guards reacted, Mike had already vanished. Unexpectedly, before the guards could organize a search, Mike voluntarily returned to his cell. In fact, his true purpose was to figure out the layout of the entire prison. His goal was not only to escape himself, but to lead all the prisoners to break out together. At midnight, the plan began. They first stole a stone slab and embedded it at the bottom of the sewer. When the inmates inside gave a signal, the accomplices outside would tap nails in rhythm, and those inside would respond with taps to cover up the real sounds. Just then, the lookout suddenly discovered a guard approaching. The engineer reacted swiftly, immediately standing up, covering the stone slab, sealing the edges with cement, and pouring a bucket of water over it. Even if the guard stepped on it, he wouldn't notice anything unusual. However, as the tunnel got deeper, disposing of the soil became troublesome, especially since the excavated soil was black and could be easily discovered if discarded carelessly. Just as everyone was at a loss, a prisoner took out his homemade secret weapon, a storage bag made from a modified sock. By pulling a thin string, the soil could be quietly unloaded from the bottom of the foot. They took advantage of the daytime to dump the soil, and their accomplices quickly mixed it with shovels, successfully concealing the soil. However, one day during the digging process, the tunnel suddenly collapsed. Fortunately, Mike rescued his comrade from the soil in time. To prevent another collapse, they collected all the wooden boards, filled the tunnel, and reinforced the bottom structure. 3 years quickly passed, and the tunnel was almost finished. But just then, a prison guard accidentally discovered the prisoner's secret while fetching water. He quickly poured the water on the floor tiles, and unexpectedly, not only did the water quickly seep in, but there was also the sound of flowing water coming from below. The guard immediately realized something was wrong and quickly notified the warden. Several people joined forces to move the iron stove and lift the floor tiles, and sure enough, they discovered the excavated tunnel underneath. Subsequently, the alarm sounded throughout the prison, and all the guards rushed to the scene for reinforcement. But the nearby resting prisoners were not panicked at all. It turned out that the tunnel discovered by the warden was just a diversion. There were actually 17 similar tunnels. After some time of digging, they finally dug out a piece of turf, indicating that the tunnel had been successfully connected. However, when Mike poked his head out to check, he discovered that the tunnel was dug too short and was still 10 meters away from the woods ahead. If they acted rashly, they would be easily discovered by the guards, but this was their only chance. At this moment, Mike suddenly thought of a plan. They found a long rope and took advantage of the time difference between guard shifts. Mike escaped first, then observed the sentry's movements in the woods. As soon as there was an opportunity, he would pull the rope to signal, and the teammates in the tunnel would quickly escape after receiving the signal. Although the speed was slower, this was the best plan at the moment. Suddenly, an air raid siren sounded overhead, and the entire prison turned off its lights to avoid the airstrike, giving the prisoners a good opportunity to escape. Mike immediately rushed to the hole and urged his comrades in the tunnel to escape quickly. Within just 2 minutes, 50 prisoners successfully escaped. However, the prison soon restored lighting, and Mike had to return to the woods and continue using the previous method. If everything went smoothly, everyone could escape before dawn. But at this moment, a nervous teammate slipped while escaping, and the loud noise attracted the attention of the guards. Due to the dim light, the guards did not notice the fallen prisoner. They thought they had escaped a disaster, but the teammates in the tunnel, who had not received a signal for a long time, came out on their own and were discovered by the guards who were about to retreat. With this, the escape plan was completely exposed. The prisoners hiding in the woods hurried to escape, while those in the tunnel had no choice but to retreat. At the end of the story, the large-scale escape plan involving more than 200 people ultimately failed. However, 76 people still managed to escape successfully. Some escapees chose to leave by train, some simply stole a bicycle, and a few picked up a small boat and rowed away. Mike's method was even more ingenious. He pulled a rope across the road on both sides, causing the pursuing guards to trip and fall, while he took the opportunity to disguise himself as a guard and rode away on a motorcycle. However, those prisoners who took the train were not so lucky. They encountered an inspection on the way, and the guards immediately recognized their identities. One of the prisoners, in order to cover for his comrades, was unfortunately shot dead on the spot. Among the escapees, there were also a few pilots who actually stole a plane and were preparing to fly out of the country. However, they hadn't flown far before the plane malfunctioned. Although the two miraculously survived, they were soon caught by the pursuers. Apart from them, many people were immediately captured during the escape process. After returning to the prison, 50 people were executed. Despite this, 11 people eventually succeeded in escaping and completely evaded pursuit.